what's in the box today? Let's find out. Oh, it's good and creaky today, I think. Oh yeah, it creaks even more after it's had a whole weekend off. Yeah, like my knees. Oh, it's this one. It's this one today. It's this one. Ooh. Oh my goodness me! I wish you were here and you could smell this bag. It smells delightful. This can only mean one thing, my friends. Today's story is going to be the story of Granny Dumpling. Some of you might know this one already. I know you know this story, Omar. Granny Dumpling. I wonder. We'll just put that there for safekeeping. Now, Granny Dumpling made the best dumplings in her village. In fact, I think it's fair enough to say she made the best dumplings in the whole of Japan. And if there were some kind of international competition of dumpling making, I'd say she'd probably make the best dumplings in the whole wide world. They were just wonderful. But before I continue with this story, let me just ask you lot, do you like dumplings? Let me know right now. Hold on. Ring, ring. You do? You don't. You do. Sometimes you do. You don't. Well, it's about 50-50, I would say. Half of you like dumplings, the other half don't. In our house, I really like dumplings. But my daughter can't stand them. It's that sort of Marmite thing. Love it, leave it, love it, leave it, love it, leave it, that kind of thing. Or like mushy peas. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Yuck, 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 yuck. Anyway, dumplings. In our country, we tend to have them with stew or in soup, okay? And they are made from suet and gluten. Okay, you can make them gluten-free, but suet and gluten predominantly. And sometimes they're a bit sticky. And sometimes they can go a bit stodgy if you cook them either too long or too little time, okay? But in Japan, the dumplings aren't made of suet and gluten. In Japan, they're made from ground up rice and a little bit of spice, yeah? And the water's added, and you roll them and you put them in a little bamboo pot and you steam them. Oh, you steam them, and they're light and they're fluffy and they taste like little clouds of wonder. And they're not big, heavy English dumplings that float around in soup or stew. No, these are light, fluffy clouds. Absolutely yummy. Now, the reason why Granny Dumpling's dumplings tasted so good and were probably the best in the whole wide world is simply because of this. A little bag of spices. In this... I better not do that, because do you know what happened last time I did this? I hypnotised myself and I convinced myself that I was a dinosaur. For the next 3 years I walked around like a pterodactyl. Tyrannosaurus Rex, he meant to say. Emperor, king, kingitis, pterodactyl, who knows. Anyway, this little bag of spices contained all the spices Granny Dumpling needed to make the perfect dumpling. There were some of the ordinary things like cinnamon and paprika and pepper, but some slightly more exotic things like galangal or lemongrass, yeah, or tamarind bark, yeah, and sometimes even more obscure things like the berry off the bush. Anyway, only she knew the perfect mix. She would put just the right amount of each proportion of each berry and each root and each little spice into the dumplings, and that's why her dumplings tasted like perfection indeed. She really did make perfect dumplings. And everyone said how wonderful they were. And everyone said, Granny Dumpling, you really should open up your own restaurant, you know. And she said, oh, I don't know, my dear, I don't know. A restaurant just selling dumplings? I don't know, maybe one day, dear. But everyone loved Granny Dumpling's dumplings. And whenever there was some kind of special occasion on, they would always ask Granny Dumpling if she could make some for them. They always offered her money, but she would never take it because, do you know what? She loved making dumplings. It was one of her favourite things in the whole wide world, making dumplings. She would always sing as well. La-dee-da-dee-da-dee-dum, ya-dee-da-dee-da-dee-dum, when she made dumplings. By the way, she made excellent dumplings, but her singing voice didn't match that ability. But never mind, you can't be good at absolutely everything. So one day, she was making 100 dumplings in her kitchen. It was her friends, sisters, daughters, aunties, cousins, nephews, next door neighbours' wedding, okay? And she had to make 100 dumplings for this event. And there she was, la-dee-da-dee-da-dee-dum, ya-dee-da-dee-da-da-dum, taking the rice, grinding the rice up, adding her spice, adding the water, rolling these into little perfect balls. La-dee-da-dee-da-dee-dum, ya-dee-da-dee-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum. It was a hot day, a very, very hot day. It was the height of summer, and she had left the door open to cool down. La-dee-da-dee, because when you're steaming dumplings, oh my goodness me, the room fills up with steam, and it is very hot and very sweaty in a kitchen if you're making dumplings. La-dee-da-dee-da-da-da. Anyway, she just finished the 100th dumpling, and she had stacked them all up on a plate. Now, I ought to say, Granny Dumpling was pretty old. She was pretty old, and her back would hurt her occasionally, and every now and then she had to stop what she did, and with a 1, 2, 3, straighten up, and then she would get back to work. So she put the 100th dumpling on top of this plate in a perfect sort of pyramid, a bit like when they serve Ferrero Rocher. Oh, Ambassador, you are spoiling us with your Ferrero Rocher. Well, it looked like that, but not gold. White dumplings, white, perfectly spherical dumplings. Her dumplings were great big plate. Anyway, hot day, door open. She's carrying this, and she trips. I don't know what she tripped on. She just tripped. Maybe her back snagged and she went, ooh, like that. But anyway, she dropped all 100 dumplings onto the floor. Oh, bother, she said. Oh, bother. But she knew she had a very, very clean floor. A very clean floor. Spotless, in fact. She knew she could just pick them up, pop them back on the plate, and no one would be any the wiser. But oh dear me, her floor had a little bit of a slope on it, and they started rolling across the floor. Oh, bother. And you know what? They rolled towards the door, and the door was open. Oh no, oh no, oh no! Why didn't you warn us? There could have been mild beryl. Rolling dumplings towards an open door. That's like a wolf eating Granny. Ah! Anyway, they rolled across the floor, rolling towards the door, and out the door they went. Oh, bother, said Granny Dumpling. Oh, bother, but she knew it was the height of summer. She knew it hadn't rained. There'd be no mud on the path outside. She knew she could just dust them down, maybe stick a bit of ketchup on. No one would be any the wiser. But oh dear me, I forgot to tell you that Granny Dumpling's cottage was on top of a hill, yeah? And the dumplings started rolling down the hill. They were rolling and falling and falling and tumbling and tumbling and fumbling their way all down the hill, one after the other. Oh, bother, said Granny Dumpling, bother! But she knew she could dust them down, stick ketchup on, no one would be any the wiser. So she followed all 100 dumplings as they rolled down the hill, rolling and falling, falling and tumbling, tumbling and fumbling in the way, down and down and down they went. But it was so hot, and every now and then she had to stop what she was doing. As she was walking down, she stopped, she straightened up her back with 1, 2, 3. She mopped her brow. Luckily, she had a little bottle of water on her. She took a sip of water, and she carried on following the dumplings, rolling and falling, falling and tumbling, tumbling and fumbling in the way, down and down and down the hill. Now, at the bottom of the hill, the dumplings decided to stop. Well, they didn't just decide to stop, they stopped. They stopped. But they didn't stop because they wanted to. They stopped because there was a great big tree in their way. You see, at the bottom of the hill, there was a forest. And at the entrance of the forest was a great big sturdy old twisty gnarly tree. One of those ones which look like they're hollow. Yeah, they look like they're hollow inside. And it looks a bit like a guardian as it stood there at the front of this forest. Oh, no one may enter my forest. That sort of thing. Quite a foreboding tree. That's a good word for you today. Foreboding. Yeah. Anyway, the dumplings stopped in front of this foreboding tree. And Granny Dumpling, she was still some distance away from the tree and the dumplings, yeah. She was about the distance you are right now from the house over the road's front door. Okay. Now, if you live in the middle of the field, let's say where you are now to that first blade of grass you come to in the field. About that far away. Anyway, she was that far away. It was hot. She was mopping her brow. She was straightening up her back, 1, 2, 3, like that. And out of the tree, the great big sturdy gnarly tree, came a huge hairy hand with fat stubby fingers and dirt under the nails. And this hand, with its short, fat, stubby sausage fingers, it reached out of the tree, it grabbed a dumpling, and it pulled the dumpling back into the tree. And the dumpling and the hairy hand disappeared with a burp. "Oi!" said Granny Dumpling. "Oi! Don't you dare do that!" Now, I forgot to mention, Granny Dumpling wasn't scared of anything. She was so brave, so brave. And she walked closer and closer to the tree, but it was so hot, suddenly even hotter than just that moment before. So hot, she had to stop, she had to mop her brow, she had to straighten up her back with a 1, 2, 3, and she saw the hand reappear out of the tree. It came out slowly and rather creepily. Fat, squat sausage fingers, grabbing hold of a dumpling, pulled the dumpling back into the tree, and it disappeared. The hand and the dumpling disappeared with a burp. "Oi!" said Granny Dumpling. "Oi! Leave those dumplings alone. Leave it, whatever you are. Leave them alone." And she walked more towards the tree, but it was so hot by now. My goodness me, much hotter than that moment, just a moment ago. And she had to stop. She had to mop her brow. She had to straighten up her back with a 1, 2, 3, like that. And this time, out of the tree, not the hand, not the hand, out of the tree stepped an Oni. An Oni. Now, just in case you don't know, an Oni is a Japanese... Actually, I should say this without, because it's rather distracting, isn't it? An Oni is a Japanese goblin. Yeah, they're short, they're fat, they're hairy. Sometimes they're green, sometimes they're brown. This one was a brown one. It was covered in this brown fur. In fact, head to toe in brown fur, apart from their bottoms, which are bald. They've got short, stubby fingers, dirt under the nails. They've got yellow teeth. They've got a tiny little nose which goes as it points up to the sky. They've got horns on their head and little sharp pointed ears. And they are obsessed with food. Yeah, obsessed. And this little Oni, it grabbed all 98 remaining dumplings, piled them up in a perfect Ferrero Rocher pyramid, yeah, and it took them into the tree. Like that. Inside the tree it went. And it carried all 98 dumplings down, down, down inside the tree. Well, like I said, Granny Dumpling, she wasn't scared of anything. She was a very, very, very brave lady. I'm just going to sort this out. Might need it later. She was a very, very brave lady. So she climbed inside the tree and she started following the little Oni as he carried all 98 dumplings in a perfect Ferrero Rocher pyramid down and down and down. It was almost as if the laws of gravity didn't apply to this Oni. You know about gravity. Well, if you don't, that's tomorrow's lesson. Okay, gravity. It's not gravy, gravity. although gravy and gravity, yeah, they're the same thing. Anyway, this Oni, it ran sideways down this tunnel. There was a tunnel which went almost vertically inside the tree, down and down into the ground, like this. But carrying 98 dumplings in a perfect formation with short stubby arms and short stubby fingers was a very, very difficult thing to do. But Granny Dumpling, she was furious with this hairy little thing. She was furious, and she followed it down, but she didn't know what she was doing. She'd never been there before, and she couldn't stop herself from rolling and falling and tumbling and fumbling her way down and down, hitting herself on roots that stuck out from the side like this, bumping into little bunny rabbits. Oh, I'm sorry, little bunny rabbit. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Hedgehog. Bump, bumpity, bump, 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 bump. Down and down and down she went. Boing! And she landed at the bottom in a cave. Well, it was dark down there. So how did she know she was in a cave? Well, she guessed she was in a cave. And at first, it looked like there were all these strange, sort of blobby, furry type stalactites, or stalagmites, I should say. Stalagmites are the ones that go up, aren't they? Stalactites are the ones that come down. Yeah, it was like this cave was full of lots of hairy stalagmites. Yeah. But as her eyes adjusted, and this was helped, by the way, by the ceiling, covering the ceiling were hundreds and thousands and millions, and probably squillions even, of fireflies. And there was this weird sort of glow coming from the ceiling. Anyway, she could see that these weren't furry stalagmites. No, the room, the cave even, was absolutely full of Oni. And they were just staring at Granny Dumpling. Making a really, really weird noise. And they were grabbing hold of the dumplings, which their leader, who's called Tony, by the way, Tony Oni, he'd handed them out, although he'd kept most of them for himself. And he handed them out, and they were just grabbing them, and they were shoving these dumplings into their mouths. And they were shoving their dumplings in with their short, stubby sausage fingers, and they were picking their yellow teeth, and they were wiping their greasy fingers on their big, round, hairy tummies, which looked a bit like hairy coconuts. Their big, round coconut tummies like this. Burp! And then they all looked at Granny Dumpling and they said, Granny Dumpling, Dumpling lady, you make good dumplings. Yeah, very good dumplings. Oh yeah, excellent dumplings. Oh, we like your dumplings. Dumpling, oh, so good. And then they all stopped and stared at her with their beady eyes and said, Dumalaka, 1, 2, 3. We are Oni and hungry. As they pointed their little noses up to the top of the cave. The ceiling of the cave. I think that's what it's called. The top is outside, isn't it? Yeah. Dumalaka, 1, 2, 3. We are Oni and hungry. We want you to stay in cave with us, said Tony Oni. You stay here and make dumplings for all of us. Why on earth, said Granny Dumpling, scratching her nose, why on earth should I make you dumplings? Those dumplings you've just scoffed. Those dumplings were for my friend's daughter's, auntie, sister's, cousin's, next door neighbour's wedding. Probably missed a few, people out there, but never mind. They were for a wedding. How dare you? You're so naughty. Why on earth should I stay here and make dumplings for you? Because of this. And Tony Oni pointed over Granny Dumpling's shoulder, and she looked around just in time to see a slam, a huge iron door closed behind her. She was now their prisoner, and they looked so ferocious, and they kept saying, Dumalaka, 1, 2, 3, we are Oni and hungry. Well, she wasn't scared, but she thought maybe she could bargain with them. Okay, she said, okay, I will make another batch of dumplings for you, another batch, just one more batch, and then you must let me go. Do you promise to let me go? Oh yes, yeah, we promise. We promise, don't we? And she noticed that all the Oni in that cave crossed their short stubby sausage fingers with dirty nails, and put their hands behind their back and sniggered. And she didn't think she could trust them at all, but she was their prisoner and she didn't really have much choice. Okay then, she said. Okay, if I'm going to make you dumplings, I need 3 things off you. I need spice, I need water, and I need rice. And without those 3 things, I can't do it. But you're lucky, because I always carry my bag of spice around with me, because I never know when I might need it. So you're okay for that. But I also need water, and I also need rice. Oh, rice. Hang on. Rice, no problem. Water, no problem. Look down there, dumpling lady. And Tony Oni pointed. Oh, just had to check I had this the right way round. Tony Oni pointed at a stream that ran all the way through the cave. Water, good, sparkly water, no problem. But what about rice? Said Granny Dumpling. I need rice. Rice, no problem. And Tony Oni, he put his short, stubby sausage fingers with dirty nails into his ear. Oh no, it's his ear, isn't it? Into his ear, like that, and pulled out a single grain of rice covered in gluey Oni earwax. And he actually wiped it on his round coconut tummy first, and then he handed the single grain of rice to Granny Dumpling. What? I can't make dumplings with a single grain of rice, you silly, silly thing. That's not enough rice to make a dumpling for an ant. I need loads of rice. Look how many of you there are. I need lots of rice, not just 1 grain. Oh, no problem. We have magic rice pot. I'm sorry, said Granny Dumpling. We have magic rice pot, said Tony Oni, starting to get angry. I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying, said Granny Dumpling. We have magic rice pot. Oh, magic rice pot. Well, why didn't you say that in the first place? Well, Tony Oni, he whispered to one of his crew in secret Oni language, and that member of his crew ran off and came back almost as quickly as he had run off, clutching a huge brass rice pot. Now, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see that? Can you see that all right? Yeah. Pure brass, yeah. Well, carried that back. Right, Granny Dumpling. Oh, wrong hat. Granny Dumpling. Put grain of rice in rice pot, like this, yeah? Grain of rice pot. Get magic spoon. Hit rice pot like this, not like that. That not good noise. Hold on. Much better, much better. Hit 3 times. 1 grain of rice become many grain of rice. Well, I have to say, Granny Dumpling had heard of many, many things. She had heard of magic teapots. She had heard of magic porridge pots, but she'd never heard of a magic rice pot. But she did exactly what Tony Oni said. She took the rather waxy grain of rice. She put the grain of rice inside the pot. She took the spoon. Okay, right, you see that? Okay, right, there we go. All right, she took the spoon and she hit it 3 times. And 1 grain of rice inside became 2 grains of rice. And 2 grains of rice became 4 grains of rice. And 4 grains of rice became 8 grains of rice, and 8 grains of rice became 16 grains of rice, and 16 grains of rice became 32, and 32 became 64, 64 became 128, and before she knew it, the magic rice pot was absolutely full of rice. She was absolutely flabbergasted. What a good word. Flabbergasted. She was flabbergasted. She's never seen anything like this in her life. She almost turned into song and dance, but she was in a very, very grumpy mood by now, so she didn't sing or dance at all. But she was amazed. But she was trying to keep her cool. She didn't want to look impressed in front of these horrible Oni. Well, she said, I'll get on with it then, shall I? So she took the rice and she started grinding it up in something called a pestle and mortar. That's like a stone sort of bowl. She ground up the rice. She added her spice from her little bag like this, just the right amount. And she added water from that fresh, bubbling, sparkling stream. And she started rolling these into the perfect little spheres that would become the dumplings. And all the time the Oni just looked and stared and said, "Hurry up, dumpling lady, we're hungry. Dumalaka, 1, 2, 3, we are Oni and hungry," as they pointed their little noses up to the ceiling of the cave. They really, really were hungry and very annoying and very unhelpful and rude as well. "Hurry up, time is money, be quick about it." Well, she steamed the dumplings over a fire they had prepared, and she handed these out to the Oni. And straight away they just grabbed them without saying thank you. They didn't want to say thank you. They grabbed them with their short, stubby sausage fingers, and they stuffed them into their mouths with the yellow teeth. They burped at the end. Burp! And then they wiped their short, stubby sausage fingers on the big, round coconut tummies, which left a greasy, slick kind of stain. Well, at the end of that, she thought they would let her go. But no, not at all. They just stared at her and said, Dumalaka, 1, 2, 3, we are Oni and hungry, as they pointed their little noses up to the top, the ceiling of the cave. Sorry, I've got ceiling top-itis as well. It happens to all of us, especially when you're my age. Anyway. More dumplings? I'm not going to make you more dumplings. You can't be hungry. She knew that they were really filling. She couldn't possibly make more dumplings for them. But you said you would let me go, said Granny Dumpling. Yeah, we promise. Fingers crossed. We promise to let you go, but when we're full, okay? That'll be soon. No doubt about it. Well, even though her dumplings were light and fluffy like clouds, she knew that most people could only eat 3 or 4, 5 at the absolute maximum. And they'd stuffed loads down into their tummies. Loads of them. She couldn't believe it, but she thought, okay, one more batch, and they're bound to be full. So she took one of the grains of rice that were left over. She put the grain of rice into the bowl, and she started rolling this around again. 1 became 2, 2 became 4, 4 became 8, 8 became 16, 16 became 32, and before she knew it, again, she had even more rice. Well, she ground up the rice, she added the spice, she added the water, and the whole time the Oni just looked on. Hurry up, dumpling lady, hurry up, we're hungry. Hungry hippo, time is money, be quick about it. They didn't once offer any help at all. She added the water, I've said that bit, she rolled them into perfect spheres, she steamed them over the fire, and eventually they were ready. And they just grabbed them with their short, stubby fingers, with dirt under the nails. They stuffed them into their mouths, munched them up, chomped on them with their horrible yellow teeth. They wiped their greasy fingers on their big, round coconut stomachs, and they belched at the end. Burp! But then they looked at her with their beady eyes, and they said, Dumalaka, 1, 2, 3. We are Oni and hungry. As they pointed their noses up to the ceiling top, ceiling top. Told you, I've got ceiling top-itis. But then she realised something. These Oni are never going to be full. They're always going to be hungry. I need a plan, she thought. I need a plan. Well, they stared at her with their beady eyes, and they were actually looking quite vicious now. Quite vicious, and they looked even hungrier than before. Dumalaka, 1, 2, 3. We are Oni and hungry. Be quick about it. We are hungry. Feed us, Dumpling Lady.
Yeah, feed us.
Feed us. We're so hungry. Feed us, we are hungry. They were annoying as well. They were so annoying. She had to take a little sip of water. So she started to make a third batch of dumplings. But this time she did something different. As she made the rice, and as she ground the rice, and as she added her spices, she started to sing a lullaby. And the Oni, they'd never ever heard singing in their life. And at first, they just stared at her with their mouths open. What Dumpling Lady doing? Tony, I don't understand it. What noise come out of her mouth? So strange. What's going on, Tony? I feel funny. And all the Oni started yawning. Her singing was sending them to sleep. One by one, every single Oni in the cave fell asleep. And the moment the last Oni was asleep, Granny Dumpling put her plan into action. She grabbed hold of the magic rice pot. She dragged it all the way down to the stream, and she took the spoon, which was massive for her. She took the spoon, and she was going to use this as a boat and this as an oar. She climbed inside the pot, and using the oar, she steered her way through the crystal clear water in the stream. Her plan was to get out of the cave, out of the forest, and out of danger. But she made one big mistake. She had to concentrate on steering this magic rice pot boat construction, and she forgot to sing. And because she wasn't singing anymore, one by one, the Oni woke up. No! Dumpling Lady, escape! Tony, Dumpling Lady, escape! Tony, Dumpling Lady, escape! Which way are you? That way or that way? Dumpling Lady, escape! What we gonna do, Tony? Tony Oni woke up and he looked horrified. No! More dumplings! We're still hungry! We need dumplings! Don't go! What we gonna do, Tony? What we gonna do? And all the Oni, they were scratching their heads. Then Tony came up with a really good idea. I know, this is what we're gonna do. And he got onto his knees and his hands, and he put his head down into the stream, and he started slurping up the water. No time for glug glugs and ahs here. He slurped up the water, and he slurped up, and all the other Oni did the same. They crouched down on their knees and they slurped up the water, and they are amazing Oni. They're so weird. Their bodies are so weird. It's like they have an endless space inside, a bit like a TARDIS. Yeah, a bit like a TARDIS. But these Oni, their bodies got bigger and bigger as they started drinking up the water, and the level of the water went down and down and down and down and down, and the Oni got bigger and bigger and bigger, and they started to look like big, hairy, blobby marshmallows along the side of a stream. A really disgusting sight, I have to say. And the water went lower and lower and lower, and Granny Dumpling, the boat started to scratch on the base of the river, on the bed of the river, and she could see little fish flopping about like that because there wasn't much space to swim in, and the Oni were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. They looked disgusting by now. Great big tummies all flabby all over the place like that, but they carried on drinking. Eventually she couldn't move. She needed another plan. She had to think quickly, and then, putting on her thinking hat, ding, she had an idea. She grabbed one of the fish that she could see flopping about like that. She grabbed the fish. She said, "I'm sorry about this, Mr. Fish, I'm sorry," gave the fish a kiss, and threw the fish onto the bank of the stream, where all the Oni were still big, fat and blobby and flabby and looking like really hairy marshmallows. Well, my friends, if there's one thing an Oni likes more than dumplings, it's they love a raw, wriggly, scaly, gristly, bony, raw fish. Well, they saw the fish in front of them. There was hardly any space left because their big, fat, blobby bodies were everywhere. But there was this fish on the dry stream bank, not river bank, stream bank. And they wanted to eat it. Tony, fish, we love fish. I should have said earlier, by the way, Oni can't swim. That would have solved the whole problem for them. They can't swim, okay? That's why they were drinking up the stream. Phew, dodged a bullet there, didn't I? Anyway, there was this fish wriggling in front of them, and they wanted to eat it. Tony, look, fish, we love fish. Oh, Tony, we want to eat fish. Please, Tony, let us eat fish. Please, Tony, pretty please, with a cherry on top. Well, Tony Oni loved his fish as well, but there was no space left in his tummy. Finally, the Oni were full, but they were full of water, and they really didn't like water. So Tony put his short, stubby sausage fingers onto his massive, round, fat, coconut, flabby tummy, and he started to squeeze like this. He wanted to squeeze the water out so there'd be a bit of space to eat that fish. And he squeezed and he squeezed and he squeezed, and water started spraying out of his mouth. Psh, and water started spraying out of his nostrils. Psh, and water started spraying out of his ears. Psh, and water started spraying out of the corners of his eyes. He wasn't crying, it was just psh. He looked like a big, fat, hairy marshmallow fountain, and all the other Oni joined in. The water was spraying out of every part of these Oni, and it was spraying back into the stream, and the water level got higher and higher and higher, and finally Granny Dumpling had enough water to sail away from the cave, away from the forest, and away from danger. But just before she left the cave, she glanced over her shoulder, and she could see that the Oni were so busily squabbling with each other that that lucky fish had managed to squirm its way back into the water. And with his little fin, he went, "Bye, Granny Dumpling. I hope you're safe." And she said, "Bye, little fish. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Here's a card from my trauma therapist. Okay, very good with fish." Anyway, eventually she got out of the cave. She got out of the forest. Yeah, and she still had the bowl and the spoon with her. Well, she dragged that bowl bit by bit all the way up the hill with the spoon inside. Oh, my back. It was a bit cooler by then. Mopping her brow. But eventually she got the magic rice pot and the magic spoon back into her little cottage at the top of the hill. Well, straight away she went to work. She took a grain of rice from her own supply. She popped it in the pot. She bumped it 3 times. Boing, boing, boing. Hang on, like this. And 1 grain became 2, 2 became 4, 4 became 8, 8 became 16, 16 became 32, 32, 64, 64, 128, and before long she had squillions and squillions and squillions of grains of rice. She ground it up, she added her spice, she always had a bag on her, remember. She ground it up, she added all the spice, and she made 100 dumplings, which she quickly steamed and brought along to her friends, sisters, daughters, aunties, cousins, nephews, next door neighbours' wedding. Phew! And I have to say, this batch of dumplings, because the rice came out of the magic rice pot, were the best she'd ever made, and everyone was absolutely flabbergasted with this. And they said, "Wow, Granny Dumpling, wow, these are the best ones you've ever made. You really must open up that restaurant." And this time she actually listened. She opened up a restaurant that only served dumplings, and people came to this restaurant from miles and miles and miles away. I must say, I've been there, and it's absolutely amazing, this restaurant. Amazing. But something was nagging at the back of her mind, and she thought about it, and then one day she realised what it was. If you take something from the forest, you must always give something back to the forest. That's it, of course. So every night after the last customer had left her restaurant, which only sold dumplings, when that last customer had left and she closed the door, she would make another batch of dumplings, about 100 I would say, using the magic rice pot. She would open up the door, she'd tip them out, she'd let them roll all the way down the hill, rolling and falling and tumbling and fumbling the way, right down to that hollow tree. And if you're brave enough to go through that forest at night time, instead of hearing the hoot of an owl, or the howl of a fox, what does the fox say? Yip, 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 yakoo, blah, bree, like that. Instead of hearing those weird noises, you would probably hear the burp as the Oni munch on Granny Dumpling's amazing dumplings. But if you continue to listen, after you've heard the last burp, you'll probably also hear Dumalaka, Dumalaka, 1, 2, 3. We are Oni and hungry. Well, my friends, I hope you've enjoyed the story of Granny Dumpling. There will be another story tomorrow. I won't tell you at the moment what that one will be. But if you do want more stories, remember you can buy them online as downloads, or we can send you CDs via that thing called the post. Yeah. Please visit our website, and these other stories, they're different from the ones I'm telling, and they all have music by Martin Thornton, and none of them, I have to say, have me with a case of ceiling top-itis or king emperor-itis. So my friends, please stay safe, please stay healthy, please look after each other, and of course, TTFN. Bye!